The U.S. economy
something.
is hurting. So, I mean, maybe they can help in some regard, but it's not looking good right now. Economists had promised that the world would be open, right? And booming once again, once Labor Day came and went. Well, guess what? Labor Day came and went, and it's not good. We're not exactly booming, are we? We're sort of chugging along right now. Chugging is fine. It's just not the boom that economists had hoped for. They see this as sort of a slowdown of momentum right now. Supply chains are totally challenged. I mean, did you see the headlines on General Motors? I mean, General Motors, they announced that next week they will shut down truck production. General Motors is shutting down truck production because they have no computer chips. And they said, well, we can't make these trucks. So we're literally shutting down our plants.
So I just got a Toyota 4Runner. I got a used one. It's a 2020. But when I went into the lot, there's like hardly any Toyotas on the lot. And I was like, talking to the sales guy, I was like, wow, like your lot's so empty. He's like, yeah. He said Toyota cut production by 10%. And it's so hard to find a Toyota right now. And he said they're getting ready to cut it by 40%. He said 10% has the lots looking like this. Imagine 40%.
Wow.
Because they can't get parts.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean it's you know, again, we have not just chips for computers. I mean, all across the board, slowing us down. Natural disasters slowing us down. I mean, look what happened to Hurricane Ida through the south and then into New Jersey and New York, and then of course now we have this new Delta variant, and then we have this new variant. Can we say it's the Mu variant, MU variant, which is stronger, more transmissible than the Delta variant now. And it's now in 49 states. Like, who even knows what this thing is? Where did it come from? It was discovered in Colombia in January. Now it's spread to nearly 4 dozen countries. It's made its presence known in Hawaii and Alaska, and it's found in 49 states. And it's even more transmissible than Delta at this point.
I want to know who's taking these things into these labs and tearing it apart and be like, okay, this little part's different. This is a variant. How do you know? Well, look at this little hair. This hair goes to the left. See how this one goes to the right? Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And then exactly. Like, who's to say, like, well, are they doing blood tests to know, like, what type of COVID you have?
And how do you know it's more transmissible?
You know, I guess we got to just listen to Fauci, right? I mean, he's always telling us the truth.
It just feels like another war on terror to me. I don't know. I'm call me a cynic.
And then job postings now leveling off, right? All we've been hearing about from senators and Republicans is that, you know, hey, this economy's booming. We cannot fill these jobs because the economy's booming. Well, guess what? Now, according to your conservative Wall Street Journal, job postings leveling off as Delta variant cools demand for in-person workers. And they're slowing up now. Okay, so COVID is still amongst us. We're seeing a surge in cases. We saw a 300% increase in COVID cases this week from the same time last year after Labor Day. 300% higher this year than last year. The good news is that economists don't think that we're going to head back into a full halt. Instead, we can expect what Delta Airlines CEO calls just choppiness. Just some choppiness. Just some choppiness in the air. Don't worry about it. Just the little potholes in air. Nothing to worry about. Little fits and starts. Just a little choppiness. But the labor market is still struggling. And it turns out that workers want better wages so they don't have to work 3 jobs in order to put food on the table. And at least this is my favorite interview of the day. Thank you, Fox, for this amazing interview. For putting words in people's mouths, by the way. At least one CEO thinks this whole living wage thing, you know, where people actually could work 1 job and have a living wage, buy food, buy medicine, take care of their family instead of having to work 3 living wage jobs. Well, this one CEO thinks it's a huge inconvenience to his bottom line to have to pay a living wage to its workers.
Well, I mean, you put everything that you have in this business. You open during the middle of the pandemic, and you lay it all out there, and you can't even get a return on your investment because the government is blocking you.
And that's the issue. It wasn't. No, don't get me wrong. Here's the thing: that people get mistaken because of what we stand for. We're okay for giving people assistance that need it. This was way too much money for way too long. Now that our season's ending for the entire coast of New Jersey, we think people are just going to line up outside your door. I'm ready to work now. Hire me. No, I don't think so. That's not how it's going to work. The issue is the money that was given out was for help, not to stay home and do nothing. I couldn't even get people to walk in the door to even explain to them, listen, I'm willing to compromise and give you a living wage, give you a working wage, not just minimum wage.
I'm willing to compromise. And I'm going to even give you a living wage, okay? I'm even willing to compromise. I'm going to give you a living wage, all right? I'm going to do it. Instead of what I normally do, which is give you a poverty wage.
Yeah. I'm not going to wait for the government to force me to do it. I'm gonna compromise, but you're going to have to negotiate that when you come in. I'm willing to compromise if you negotiate it with me.
Yeah. The issue is the money that was given out was for help, as he says, not to stay home and do nothing, he rants. I couldn't even get people to walk in the door to even explain I'm willing to compromise and give you a living wage, give you a working wage, not just minimum wage. I couldn't even get the people to come and even hear me tell them that I'm willing to not pay them a poverty wage.
Buy a big banner and put it on the front of your building that says, I pay a livable wage, and see how many people show up.
I pay a poverty wage. Like, literally right there. Like, here's poverty, here's what we pay you. Come work for me.
Yeah, he's like thinking, I pay $11 an hour. Where's he at in New Jersey? I pay $11 an hour, which is above minimum wage. So quit your complaining. Like on $11 an hour in New Jersey, I can't pay my rent if I work for you. What? You're going to work me 80 hours a week and kill me because I got to get that overtime? And
But he says it's all about capitalism, David. I mean, he says it's all about capitalism.
But I wasn't even given the opportunity to help people get jobs. Now, what about the people that busted their butts all year long for every restaurant owner and every position that was available? They burnt the candle at both ends. My kids were so tired of working before they went back to school
And the thing with my kids is I don't even pay them, So they were so exhausted, I don't even pay them because I don't believe in paying, living wages. And hey, you're working, you're part of the family. I'm just gonna pay you in pizza.
yeah,
You're just gonna get a burger. That's how I pay you.
my kids, those lazy bastards, they wanted to go back to school rather than work. Can you believe it?
Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
for the season that they were exhausted. What about those people that actually stuck by everybody to get the restaurants to work? Now that you have so many places closing up, what liberal in this and especially in this state did the math on sales tax and employment tax that the state missed out on because nothing was being served or you couldn't get food out? It actually was just mind-boggling of why this couldn't get accomplished. And then you talk about the inflation rate. Yeah. I've got products that are tenfold the price that used to be last year and the year before. How is that possible to increase products so far that we can't even touch it right now? I can't even get in minor things because they cost too much money. It's a trickle effect, and it's just dialed down to us so bad that I have only sat maybe 50% of the restaurant all year long. It wasn't about – it is strictly about capitalism. I took the risk. I put my life on the line. I put everything – I worked hard.
I put my life on the line.
He's a hero, isn't he?
I put my life on the line, people.
I put my life on the line.
Wages.
I pay poverty wages. I work my kids to the bone. They're so tired. I'm a hero. I really am.
I put my life on the line.
The minimum that we were making with the employees, but I couldn't get people even in the door. How is that even possible? You have all these statistics saying, well, all these millions of people want jobs. Where are they at? Where were they? And it's not just me. I took my kids out to dinner last night before school, so we had a nice dinner celebration. Yeah. There were so many notes all around the hostess stand pardon our appearance or short staffed. We can't sit there right now.
Jason,
sit in the back.
You are the voice of every single business owner, every landlord. You are speaking for the people of America.
Lord, I'm channeling them through me. Yeah. It is so bad that it is just absolutely, this administration is not middle class friendly and will never be. Where's the road to socialism? No middle class. That's the issue.
Yeah. Well,
guy seems like a guy you'd want to work for, though. You know what I mean? Like, he seems like if you showed up a little late because you had a flat tire or you had problems with your kids, you know, he just seems like the kind of understanding guy that wouldn't dock your pay or anything.
Yeah. By the way, so what he's arguing, by the way, is what he's complaining about is what unfolded under Trump, not what unfolded under Biden. Biden ended the unemployment benefits. Biden rolled them back to $300 a week. Under Trump, they were $600 a week. He says he hasn't been able to seat his restaurant at more than 50% capacity all year. Well, guess what? Biden's been president since January. So, okay. And then he goes on to say, this administration is so bad. It's not middle class friendly. And it never will be. So what is middle class friendly to you? Finally paying a living wage?
Middle class friendly was actually what Trump did. I mean, the middle class actually had money to go out. Like, they would have been out to his restaurant.
Yeah. Jason, fired up. The passion, I hear it in your voice, brother. Thank you so much for joining the program today.
Thank you, Lord.
It gets better. I hope the President of the United States is watching this because his policies are impacting.
Now, there's poor people all over the country, and we have to worry about this. Just fix the things. It's not hard. Sit down. You don't hear anything about Cortez or where's Pelosi and Waters. Every time Trump was in office, they just were on TV every single day with their agendas. I haven't heard one thing from these people, not one thing. Where are they for us? Where are they on the podium now speaking for me?
Yeah. You shouldn't have to pay living wages to your people, Kramer. You shouldn't have to do it. When you got to go back to the way it was before, when Trump was president, and you could pay poverty wages. You could pay minimum wage at $7.25 an hour. And now you're so outraged that he'll pay a living wage because he has to.
Well, let me ask. He's a restaurant, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in New Jersey, do they still pay like $2.14 for tipped workers, or do they have to actually pay minimum wage like they do out here?
I'm not sure. Does anyone know? Who's watching right now from New Jersey?
Because like, what's he thinking? Like, I'll pay $3-4 an hour. You know what I mean? Instead of $2.13. Like, is that our base where we're starting? Or are we starting with like $15-20 an hour?
Drew Blood says his only concern is he might lose his summer house. Yeah. So imagine that, so now you left your employees go. So these employees that don't want to work for poverty wages and be on the front line, they risking their lives being on the front line so they can serve people food during a pandemic, right? So those people don't want to do that. Those people don't want to work at a grocery store where they are not receiving any kind of hazard pay. They're making basically a poverty wage, and they're being asked to, hand out toilet paper to people who are unvaccinated, who may be spreading COVID, and there's nothing for those people, and they're being walked on, right? So maybe these people don't want to work in those conditions. Imagine that, right? We saw what happened at the chicken plant where all these people got COVID because they didn't put in proper PPE and also social distancing guidelines and other things that got all these people sick in this one close quarters. Didn't give them time off. They had to pee in the corners in this chicken plant. Like, this is all too common.
This guy sounds like the kind of guy that walks past homeless people thinking, you lazy bum, why don't you get off your butt and get a job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad he's finally willing to compromise.
Yeah.
And pay a living wage because he can't find workers. Imagine that. Or he could just continue to run his kids to the bone and not pay them anything. But, the good news is he can afford to take his family out to a nice meal at other restaurants, right? When so many people are suffering. So he can afford to do that. He can take his kids out to a nice meal before they go back to school and go to another restaurant. I'm sure, and I'm curious, like, what that restaurant, if those restaurants are also paying a living wage or poverty wages. This is a thing. I was like, if you pay more than a living wage so that someone doesn't have to work 3 jobs, they might actually be an excellent employee and it would lift up your entire company. Just look at Dan Price. Look at what Denny's did when it raised wages. Saw huge profits as a result of it.
So what I'm finding on is that tip workers in New Jersey, the minimum wage is $4.13 an hour. That's what I'm finding, but I don't know if that's true. I'm still doing a little bit of research, but
wow.
Meaning what? He's stepping up to what, $5? I'll give you $4.75 an hour, and you're gonna like it.
So he can serve that weird looking white lasagna thing with it was in that video, whatever the hell that thing was.
Well, and I was talking while you were gone too. Like, think about it. Like, he steps up. Let's say he steps up to $5 an hour. You know, if you've got no customers coming in, they're still not going to make any money. Could you imagine like sitting there and like rolling silverware and doing dishes and doing the other things that he probably expects you to do? Because he was saying that his kids were like burning the candles at both ends and they were all, worn out. He probably does the same thing to his employees for $4.13 an hour, whether they're making tips or not.
Well, and it also speaks to why in the world were we not supporting these small businesses, right? Why were you having to do this? Why, like New Zealand, Australia, Norway, Finland, Canada were supporting businesses so they didn't collapse, so they didn't feel the need to work their kids to the bone. They actually provided them with stimulus.
I wonder
didn't do that in the United States.
If Biden would have come in and done everything he was promising on the campaign trail, if he would have come in and done that and he would have helped workers, he would have helped businesses, I bet that guy'd be whistling a completely different tune because he wouldn't be in the situation he's in now, and neither would the middle class. He's assuming that everybody that is struggling through the pandemic is because they're lazy. Like, I'm getting tired of hearing this rhetoric because it is not true. I personally, if I had the choice of getting $600 a week unemployment or going out to a job where I'm not even going to make half of that to bust my butt and not be able to pay my bills, I would mooch off the government for sure. Why wouldn't I? And that's not me being lazy. That's not me taking the advantage of the system. That's me wanting to demand a livable wage. Like if somebody was like, I'm going to step up and I'll pay a livable wage, I'd go out and get that job like right now. If I could make more than the minimum the government is going to get me. They're going to get me $600 a month or a week, which does just barely get me by with a little bit extra. If I could find something that did more than that, I'd go work and I'd work my butt off and give 110% every single day because that's what I do. But I'm not going to go give that for something that doesn't even keep me out of poverty.
Well, and don't forget the fact that we're in a pandemic.
Right.
So,
they all gloss over that.
Right. So the whole reason that this is in place is because these businesses had to close and because these people were on the front lines so we're keeping these businesses closed. So they're paying them, additional money right now so that they can take care of their family while the job is closed down. And as a grocery store employee where you're making crap, and then you end up, you're on the front lines working with people every day as they come through these lines, and there's nothing protecting you from these people. And, we saw that grocery store workers had way higher COVID cases and deaths as a result. So all of these frontline workers, the postal employees, the grocery store workers, the people that are, trying to give out food and help people, like these people weren't receiving anything. So those are the people that absolutely should have been getting the $600 a week to take care. By the way, the people that ended up getting that money were able to start businesses, invest that money, put a little bit in savings so that they could get back on their feet, removed some of the anxiety. I was watching something yesterday saying, money, the lack of money is one of the biggest causes of anxiety and stress in our society.
Oh, hell, easily.
God. It leads to so many things. It leads to all sorts of substance abuse. It leads to failed marriages. List goes on and on. What does it actually cost society to have people in poverty like this?
Because there's absolutely nothing you can get without, like, you have to have money to get every necessity you have. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you look at, like, take pre-Dan Price $70,000 a year, right? And I'll bet you if you did any kind of research on the mental health of his employees before, when they were maybe questioning whether or not they could make their car payment, their house payment or whatever. Then he stepped up. Those people, like, and look at Europe. Just look where you're at. The people, it's a completely different mindset. They will work at a McDonald's and they will be happy because they can live on what they make. They don't have the stress that comes with making $7 an hour and then going home and sitting there with your significant other who also makes $7 an hour. So you're making $14, maybe $15 an hour combined. And you're sitting there trying to decide, okay, how much can we buy food this week? And how much has to go to the car? How much can we put towards rent? And you're sitting there trying to stretch that little bit of money to keep you just surviving, not getting ahead, waiters, surviving.
I see these waiters in Europe who they make a great living wage. I mean, it's a career. And I see, our waiter the other day, we were taking my father-in-law out. I saw his car. He drives a great car. He makes great money. And guess what? They don't even rely on tips. And if they're tipped, it's kind of like a shock. It's not something they normally do because they actually make a great salary relative to the economy, and they're able to have a great living wage and provide for their family and live a comfortable life. Imagine that.
I know, and it's a good employer-employee relationship. There's no like if I'm going to a McDonald's and I'm paid $7 an hour, I'm probably not going to have that great of a relationship if my boss is telling me to do this, do that, do this, do that. And I'm like, dude, I'm making $7 an hour. Whereas over there, they're probably like your baristas, they're probably in there cleaning the coffee cups and happy and whistling and happy. And the owner doesn't even have to micromanage because everybody wants to do their job.
Yeah. I mean, I see some of these waiters that I've seen for years working at the same place. Everyone knows them. They're jovial. They're happy. They also have a system that provides healthcare, right? On top of that. So they're making a living wage while they're working. They're happy and they're provided for by their government and taken care of. America. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.